The amazing story of the plan to kill Bonnie and Clyde with their own gun and why it failed. After the ambush of Bonnie and Clyde, there was contention between the officers and conflicting stories of what actually happened. An amazing story is believed to give explanation to much of the secrecy and contention. The name Deputy Prentice Oakley, who fired the first shot that killed Clyde, was originally even left off of the historical marker and sparked much protests for years until it was added. In all of the confusion, an amazing story passed down by family members provide compelling evidence of a failed plot to kill Clyde Barrow with his own gun. The plan revolved around the fact that Deputy Prentice Oakley brought to the ambush 2 guns he had borrowed from a friend who had kept them in a bank vault. One was a Remington Model 8, which actually fired the first shot in the ambush. The other gun was a Winchester 94 30-30, and it was in the bank vault because it once belonged to Clyde Barrow and contained 666 in the serial number. Historical accounts report Deputy Oakley borrowed the Winchester, but at the ambush accounts say that the Winchester was in the possession of Commanding Officer Sheriff Henderson Jordan. Jordan was to give the fire command, which also gave him the opportunity for the first shot with Barrow's gun. That and reports of Jordan's personality always desiring center stage, suggests a conflict over the use of Barrow's gun, which of course the sheriff won. Despite Oakley having brought Barrow's Winchester and it now being in the possession of Sheriff Jordan for the kill shot, Deputy Oakley, undeterred, fired with the Remington before the command was given, sparking tremendous controversy and conflict, but he is acknowledged by historians as the person who killed Clyde Barrow. The story of the mysterious Winchester 94 began before Bonnie and Clyde became famous. As teenagers, Bonnie and Clyde occasionally attended an Assemblies of God church located in South Dallas, Texas. The pastor's sons were exceptional guitarists and also participated with their father in street ministry. It is well known that Clyde loved guitar music. It is also well known in religious circles that Bonnie and Clyde sat on the same pew of the church the night one of their friends, the pastor's son, went to the altar for prayer. The pastor's son later became a world-renowned minister, as did his brothers. Bonnie and Clyde told him that night that they would come later, but they never did. It was said that Bonnie would have been all right if she could have stayed away from Clyde. Around the end of 1931, Bonnie Parker had been coming to church occasionally while Clyde was in prison for burglary. During this time, Bonnie asked the pastor of the church to take possession of a rifle that belonged to Clyde. The rifle contained 666 in the serial number and she believed it was a bad sign. The number 666 is in the Bible in the book of the Revelation and known as the mark of the beast and widely accepted as an omen of evil. The number also contained tens, and the number 10 is also considered to carry strong symbolism, and in that context added an extra dimension to her concerns. The pastor took the rifle and the church people prayed over it that it might never be used in a crime. After Clyde returned from prison and again turned Bonnie's head, they soon disappeared in what would become the famous crime spree that led to their deaths. As they began to make headlines, the pastor, fearing that Bonnie might tell Clyde where the rifle was and that he might return for it, entrusted the gun to someone who took it out of state where it was kept in a bank vault. When it was learned by law enforcement that Thompson machine guns could not penetrate Bonnie and Clyde's cars, plans were made to acquire hunting rifles with sufficient caliber to penetrate the metal. Deputy Oakley knew of the Winchester in the bank vault, which fit the need perfectly, and the fact that it once belonged to Clyde Barrow was even better. What could be better than to kill Clyde Barrow with his own gun? The plan failed when Sheriff Jordan, who was in charge of the ambush and Oakley's superior officer, took the Winchester for himself to make the kill shot. Deputy Oakley, before the command was given, fired the first shot that killed Clyde Barrow with the Remington. Any shots from the Winchester 94 at the ambush are unknown. The plan for Clyde's gun had lost its purpose and the gun was eventually returned to the pastor. Sheriff Jordan was also ordered by court order to return other items, including the stolen ambush car, to its owner. What followed was tension and conflicting stories coming from the officers and witnesses. Many stories were told. What can be believed? There is no one to dispute nor confirm and tell firsthand exactly what happened, and even when they were alive most stories didn't match. It is said that some guns supposedly related to Bonnie and Clyde have been displayed with manufacture dates after the date of the ambush. The story of the rifle with 666 between a pair of tens and the serial number, that was brought to the church by Bonnie Parker and then sent out of state to be kept in a bank in Louisiana became known around Dallas. The story of Bonnie and Clyde being present when the pastor's son was converted, has been heard by millions of people around the world. In the published ambush stories, there are mysterious mentions of the borrowed Winchester 94-30-30 from a bank vault. In various accounts of Prentice Oakley and Sheriff Henderson Jordan, it is also mentioned. Could it be that the confusion in the use of the Winchester on the highway in Louisiana was affected by a prayer in Texas? Could it also be that the personality traits and actions of Sheriff Jordan and the premature shot from Deputy Oakley played into a much larger picture? The serial number on the Winchester confirms a manufacture date of 1929. Bonnie and Clyde were killed in 1934. The pastor who prayed over the Winchester died in the 1960s. His son, who sat on the same pew as Bonnie and Clyde, was 94 when he died in 2007 after preaching the gospel around the world. His younger brother, also a pastor, who handled his father's estate, died at the age of 95 in 2016. Some say that truth is often stranger than fiction. What do you think? Comments are welcome. Also see related testimony and evidence in other clips, including one where another of the pastor's sons tells in a large congregation of Clyde's return to the church 10 days before the ambush. Could Bonnie's fears over the tens surrounding the 666 have some significance, or is it all a coincidence? Also see Dr. Milner video where he refers to the personality traits of Sheriff Jordan from the book The Lives and Times of Bonnie and Clyde. And another pastor shares meeting with the pastor's older son who walked away from Bonnie and Clyde in church, taken from Facebook.